Hello everyone, this is Fantastic Worlds, and welcome back to Lovecraft Country and the Secret World Legends. This is the second of my Interlude episodes, in which we concentrate on the lore and characters of the Secret World themselves, and now I'm going to focus on the residents of the Kingsmouth Police Department, the last holdout in the zombie apocalypse that is overflowing, well, mostly last. There's a few scattered survivors out there. So, first of all, these are, of course, the townsfolk, the surviving militia, as it were, apparently consisting of twins and triplets. Because, seriously, seeing like 3 or 4 of the same people here. Let's take a look around. Now you notice that she has a whiteboard here keeping track of the situation. It's listing the people: Norma, Henry, Rogette Woman, Ed, Krieg, Ellie, contact Reds for supply, Andy, or emergency frequency test at 6, 12, 18, and 2400 hours, and the safe houses. You'll notice that the Kingsmouth Congregational is the only one that's listed, and we know that's it's safe because it's going to be warded, but it appears that they also had an opportunity. They also had the town hall, the firehouse, and Susie's. All were secured at some point, but then overrun, and she crossed them out. Now, peering down below, you can see a few crossed out things. It says heavy weather, incoming, notify Marine patrols. This must have happened before the fog came in, just before the fog. It says possible loitering west of Mangmore Bridge. Not sure that's relevant, but it's a report. And you notice there's also, this is Solomon Island, and there's X's at certain points. Now, probably these are hotspots we're going to hit, but let's just keep that in mind as we progress. Now, it also says missing person sighting in county, follow-up, Jeopardy reruns Tuesday, Thursday. So those must have been before the invasion, and she simply hasn't mentioned that. She hasn't erased them yet. Probably.
I'll come back without a piece out here.
Sure. Now, this is actually much easier to see in close-ups here, but the missing persons list is listed over here. It's one of the missions, and there's a few foggy things. Now, you'll also notice that back here there's a couple wounded individuals plus another missing persons sign, and that's about it. This is the storeroom where they keep the supplies. It's part of a mission. The phone book over in the one end, and you actually have a now empty, you'll notice, soda machine, which makes sense because no one's really going to be in the resupply. So let's talk to the good sheriff. Tell me about yourself.
Well, I don't mind telling you, this makes no damn sense to me. And I hate to be the one drawing a blank on Final Jeopardy. But right now, folks just need me to look like I got all the answers. The questions, they come later, along with the grieving. Then, after a little time, folks will lose their hankering for the questions. Fact is, a few of them in high places get downright evasive about it.
Right. If you remember, the Illuminati, the town council is essentially junior members of the Illuminati, and they're trying to keep a lid on all the supernatural activity, and which of course puts him in direct conflict with her whenever one of the supernatural big bads decides to cause trouble.
I never do quit. It's a bad habit. I'm just a sheriff after all, not some forensic detective like on that CSI. Thought I had it the worst when the Ravens came around years ago. Was an ugly time for Kingsmouth. Not the kind that makes it to the news. The kind we keep inside.
Yeah, that's a reference to one of the missions that's probably coming up later. When I actually post it, I may put a link up there if you want to check it out.
Now, I see those Ravens are all back in town. They with you? Or should I bring them in for questioning?
And tell me about Solomon Island.
If you're planning on striking out of town, Kingsmouth hospitality dictates I gotta set you right. And I need you to keep this on the down low. But there's worse out there than our undead problem. Worse than anything that shuffles along on 2 legs, that's for sure. I'm about as pleased as can be that I didn't catch a better look. Could be the kind of thing that gives a nightmare nightmares.
Yeah, no human has actually gotten near the beach. The only reason that Andy, in one of his episodes, Drognet, tells us about the beach is I'm betting he's got binoculars up there. When it's lighter, he can scan the beach right down the street. And if you notice, I'll show it to you later.
You want to stay in the light. Keep out of the trees, out of the fog. We got a few folks left holding out across the island. Well, that was last time I could check, and I'm an optimist. Pays to see the donut, not the hole.
Interesting saying.
Red's Shack at Tolba Bay, the Innsmouth Academy, the Wabanaki Indian Grounds. They should still be safe. Could be the others like you, that wolf fella, have set up camp out there. Toasting marshmallows and such. And steer clear of the pumpkin patch, hey? Just a feeling.
It's good advice.
Guess you could say I got lucky. Around the time this mess kicked off, I was up at the old lighthouse checking in on Sam Krieg, Maine's best-selling export. Oh sure, we do that fancy book learning around these parts too. Never much cared for horror stories or the man himself. Waving a rifle around in a dressing gown, juiced up, heck of a disturbance of the peace. Well, turns out that was the last of the piece.
Well, yes, any horror author in a fictional setting in Maine that has the initials SK is quite obviously a Stephen King analog. However, I'm beginning to think this must be Stephen King before he stopped using drugs.
I gotta write this down, Sheriff. This is goddamn manna from heaven, he says to me when the fog let go. I left him magnuming that opus and hightailed it back to town.
Well, I wonder if he's still alive. Probably, since he's been name-dropped. Or we'll find a body.
Tried to bring Ellie Franklin with me, but Kingdom Come and couldn't pry her from that mansion. Real monster house in the West Island. You can't miss it. I'd appreciate you letting them know we're still here, for when they're done playing survivalists.
Well, if I find them.
You sure you want to be talking to me about all this stuff? I mean, I'm probably flattered that you think I'm in on it all. Truth is, I'm always the last to be invited to the midnight meetings at Town Hall. Reckon I must be all thumbs when it comes to secret handshakes.
Well, that's the problem, is that the Sheriff Bannerman would prioritize her actual constituents over, the Illuminati or any other conspiracy, which makes her difficult to get along with these sort of things. And she's not stupid. She knows that the town council is corrupt, and she knows that they're probably suborned by some other power, and she knows that her island is haunted, but I don't think she realized just how bad it was.
I know this island's cut from a different cloth. A damn weird cloth. Sure as there's a difference between being homely and being plain stupid. Take it from me, no one around these parts is a dope. Not all the time.
Well, all those that are dead now.
Everybody knows, or knows someone who knows. Salem's got nothing on us. We had an episode with torches and pitchforks only 25 years ago now. But my job, I gotta do it wearing this police jacket. Not a robe and a wizard hat.
Well, you're probably doing better than some of the magicians. After all, how many dead cultist zombie bodies are we finding? Alright then, so let's go talk to the number 2 when it comes to the police department. Now, you notice that the Deputy Andy is not the only deputy, but these guys are nameless. They're just snipers. So my guess is that she's got 3 deputies, but this will be one that's her chief deputy. So, Deputy Andy, tell me about yourself.
I wanted to be a police officer since as far back as I can think. I had a lot of time to myself growing up. I watched all the cop shows, again and again. The old shows. When a good cop was always a good cop. When you knew you could trust a badge, right? You knew before the half hour was up, they'd get the guy. Out of the basement.
Yeah, those were simpler times.
So that was my goal. Plain and simple. I was single-minded about it. You ask anyone, and they'll say, hey, that Andy, he sure is single-minded.
Yeah, well, like I've said before, that's not a bad thing sometimes. Being focused on a single goal can make you a lot more effective.
Now, I wasn't what you'd call a straight-A student, but I got there. And when Sheriff Bannerman swore me on as deputy, gave me my badge, I'd been up all night ironing this shirt. It was crisper than you'd believe. Well, that day I was just as happy as a clam at high tide.
Yeah, Andy's the sort of cop that I'd like. Let's look at the town.
Sure chokes me up seeing Main Street all done up in buntings and so empty. The kids love that Halloween parade, you know? Then they'd all bus on up Bangor way for the haunted hay rides, ever since our local amusement park closed down. There were troubles. It was before my time.
Alright, as somebody with the Maine, Bangor is not exactly how we pronounce it. There hasn't been such a thick Yankee accent in Maine for probably at least half a century.
Still, what town doesn't have a little trouble? With cultists? There was that repeat killer, I wouldn't say serial killer. But he came from the mainland. And that mess with the college kids at the old hunting cabin? Bears, we reckoned.
Odds are we'll find some more about that. Now, I think that's like second time we've heard about some sort of serial killer.
Jeez, it's all laid out like that. It does sound pretty bad, huh? This right now is definitely the worst we've ever had, though. This is the real storm of the century. If we push on through it, I am not looking forward to taking a shovel to the streets after.
Yeah, even if they do survive, the number of dead bodies littering the town, it'd probably better just to burn it down. Easier to burn it down and start over. Tell me about the locals.
Oh, I knew everyone in Kingsmouth. A safe community isn't a spectator sport.
True.
I memorized that one. And Sheriff Bannerman preferred to have me walking the beat, while she handled house calls. That suited me just fine. Our folks were a good bunch. They only cause a ruckus when they've had too much of the, you know what.
I'm not sure if he means alcohol or blood magic. Yeah, the odd thing about Andy is he doesn't turn around to talk to you, but that does actually make sense. He's supposed to be there watching those 3 streets. You'll notice his head flips from one to the other. He's on watch.
But recently I got talking to Sandy. That guy's pretty philosophical. You wouldn't know it to look at him. I mean, I don't personally have a problem with bikers. I'd like a motorcycle myself.
Well, keep going.
Anywho, he made me really consider it, whether you really ever knew a person. I told him how in 2nd grade I met Anna Redmond behind the gym every day for 2 months. We would hold hands. I thought I knew her pretty good. She left town all of a sudden one day. Halloween. Jeez. Always Halloween.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if she left town and ended up on top of an altar. Yeah, it's inevitable. Let's hear about those kittens.
Moose says it's best to talk things out. So, here I am, talking. Mom bought the kittens and Dad drowned them. That's the facts of it. I don't like speculating much. That's one step away from guessing. And the sheriff, she taught me never to guess.
Yeah, Andy's a busy guy. Just kind of ignore the other players here. But, yeah, the thing is that, Doc Bannerman downstairs, her husband/brother, he's a psychiatrist. In fact, he has to be a psychiatrist because a psychiatrist requires you to have a medical license and he's performing medicine. A psychologist, not so much. Anyways, the kittens.
Mom's version was that Dad loved things too much. Got a bit crazy sometimes. Hugged real hard. Didn't always want to let go. The morning he stuffed them in a bag and took them out to sea, he was full of too much feelings. Didn't know what to do with them. It took him down to Journey's End, out behind the bed and breakfast. It's where the journey ended.
Yeah, I'm really hating the name of that wharf now.
Jeez, Dad always wore these masks, For the longest time, you figure you know someone. Most of the time, really, we got no idea.
True. Anyways, speaking of Moose, we should go talk to the man. He is technically not part of the police force. He's part of the citizen militia out here, but he is kind of an important individual when it comes to providing the heavy artillery, as we covered in an episode. Now, again, like with Andy, I can't get him to look at me. On the other hand, I am perfectly happy with him paying most of attention to that bomb, rather than me.
There's nothing like the confines of a cubicle or a packed subway to give a man perspective. I was so caught up in the grind of office politics and the endless hunt for affirmation and money, I didn't realize I was getting sick. Friend, I was no more lithe than those things out there, and a sight less mobile. The disease that grew inside me was as black as theirs.
Yeah, cancer and ennui.
Freedom lies in being bold, said Robert Frost.
True.
So, I boldly quit my job and traded my rent-controlled apartment on Christopher Street for a vintage Harley and an old poncho. Found my salvation in the open road, and I haven't looked back since.
Kinda wish this guy would have more of missions to give us, just like with Madame Roget.
Travel in the open country, you learn to be prepared for whatever the land throws your way. Faced with the elements, you gain a new appreciation and respect for nature.
True.
You come to accept how small and insignificant you truly are.
Ah.
Nature is neither good or evil. It just is.
This is a man after my heart.
There's nothing natural about the storm that rolled in on Solomon Island, or the fog that followed. It was evil in that fog, whispering to everyone in its path. The townsfolk followed the fog back into the sea, as if possessed.
Probably were.
It was Deputy Gardner, Andy, saved my life. He grabbed hold of me when the fog got into my head, tied a rope around us both, kept walking the other way. It was like the whispers didn't get to him. When I finally got my wits back, the fog had rolled back out again to where it is now. We shook hands, and we started looking for survivors and building this fortress.
That is the question. Why is Andy immune? mean, Roger, the survivor we found out there, other people were prevented from doing so, but the sheriff was above the fog with Sam Kay there, the author, but Andy's immune. Don't know if we ever find out why.
That man saved my life. Selflessly. And I love him for it. I'd go to the ends of the world and back for Andy. I don't think I'll ever win him over, though.
And apparently we're being raided. I think these guys back here got it, though. Talking about the secret world.
Living on the razor's edge of society, your eyes open up to the possibility that there's something more to this world. Something most people are too blind or too preoccupied to notice. Even if it's right under their noses. And has been all along.
Could the zombie apocalypse keep it down, please? So yes, Moose is magic aware.
I only noticed small things at first. Roads that appeared and disappeared. Folks who traveled by way of gates drawn in chalk on brick walls. Houses bigger on the inside than on the outside.
TARDISes?
Magic trinkets sold at yard sales. Street shamans capable of taking out the cancer inside you.
So that's how his cancer got cured. Now that is a story. I mean, I would love to write a whole write or read a whole series of novels about Moose's adventures prior to the apocalypse.
But it wasn't until I found myself face to face with werewolves in New Orleans that I realized there's a secret war going on. After that, I couldn't escape it. I saw signs and sigils everywhere.
That's what they say. If you ever do see the magic in the world, you never unsee it. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I met recruiters for the Templars, Illuminati, and the Dragon. They all seem to think I'd make a useful operative. I tell them I take no sides, that I'd be little use to them. But the United Against Darkness thing I can get behind. We're all in this together, and we've all got work to do.
Sigh. Timing. Tell me about the survivors, Moose.
Andy and Helen, Deputy Gardner, Sheriff Bannerman. They're the reason I stayed behind when I could have just gone. I know the secret roads. I know how to ride out of here, through places the fog can't touch.
Now, that's true. He may not be able to access Agarthia, but there are portals and gateways throughout the entire world. We'll probably find quite a few of them.
But folks like them and the rest of the survivors here in Kingsmouth deserve better. I'm not putting you on the spot here, friend. I know you got other places to be, other wars to fight. Which is why it's doubly important I stay behind. There's an honesty and an innocence to these people. And they genuinely know and care about one another.
That's the thing. I'm willing to bet this guy is taking care of issues that nobody else is aware of.
Of course, I can't claim total selflessness. My heart's gone soft for Andy. And even if he'll never feel the same way for me, as long as this heart's beating, I won't let any harm come to him.
Looks like it's a rescue romance we're developing here. Alright, Sheriff's Office.
I've spent the better part of 2 decades on the road, my friend. And I've learned that there's not a loose bolt these hands can't tighten, not a broken transmission they cannot fix. You give me a handful of nails and some wood, and I'll build you a house.
Yeah, the makers of things, we don't appreciate them as much as we should.
When the undead came marching up Main Street just a day or 2 after the fog pulled back, we did our best to prepare for the worst. Andy and me, with the help of the rest of the good folk here, built ourselves something better than a house. We built a castle.
That's how castles started. Fortifications.
It won't hold forever, but as long as we're breathing, as long as we believe in salvation, with or without help from the likes of you, we will walk tall and stand firm.
I'll kill as much as I can, Andy. Alright. So yes, these are the prominent individuals of the Kingsmouth Police Department. Just keeping the people safe. Good work, Deputy. So, that ends our interlude here for the Kingsmouth Police Department, and thank you for joining me for this. I will, of course, be continuing this as long as there's interest in finding out the lore and characters of the secret world. Until then, this is Fantastic Worlds. I'll see you next episode.
You will see the dawning of a new age. To be a monarch or a beggar. To lose everything or to become a god. To stand with us or against us. The choice is yours.